Right, straight to it. So you've got yourself a kick-ass scooter and you want to commute on the roads at 50 miles per hour and you don't want to die, which is a pretty good idea. So one of the key barriers to dying is being able to signal your intentions clearly on the road. Deck mounted indicators, yeah, well, they're not really worth the plastic they're made out of. So you really want to get some bar end indicators, because you want to be able to signal such that you are visible from the forward, from the back, from the side, in both day and night. So the best in the business are these, which are the Moto Gadget. They're the Blaze discs, and they meet the requirements. So they're highly visible and they fit nicely into standard scooter bars. So we'll talk through some of the tips of installing these. Yep. This is how they come as a unit. You buy them separately, left and right. I like to put a dab of glue just in the entry there, just to stop the wires spinning around such that they don't break off in the twisting motion. You get a set of installation options for your bar diameter. Here we're using 22mm bars, and you get an O-ring and the compression rubber, which as you twist in swells up and makes a really good seal across the bar, so you won't get any water in. So the other thing that you'll need is you need a flasher circuit to make them blink. And again, this is where the Moto Gadget gear is really good. So here we have a 22mm compatible solid state relay from them. So you can just attach it within the bar and it will fit snugly down into the bar and it won't run around. The circuit is really straightforward. There's nothing complex to that. You've got a flasher relay, and this I've put on the common negative. You have a rocker switch here, switching the positive. That comes out of your handlebar switch, and in this case I'm using a modified Dualtron Storm, where I've put a high-go cable straight out the back into the bar. You can have a look at another video I've got posted that tells how to do those modifications, but you can use any cheap switch from AliExpress. And just run the cable directly into the bar end. So let's have a look at other installation options. So you just need to run a cable through the end. So we've got a connection there, and I like to use a JST connection. You can do this completely solderless by just using these gel crimps, which are pretty readily available from car shops, some bike shops, hardware shops. So I prefer soldering it in onto a board and using JST connections, because that makes taking it apart really quickly if you want to change components on your bar. As these are pretty pricey and you may want to use them again for another project, I like to keep the cable completely intact, because that makes threading it through a frame or something like that, if you need to do it later, much easier. So I just coil it around a pen and put a dab of glue there to keep it there, and then that will then be able to push down into the bar. So pretty easy to tighten up. You just put some tension in there and then twist and turn it. Here on the circuit board there's nothing to it, as we show. There's just a flasher relay, and another tip is to run the cables to the opposite end of the board compared to where they're going. You can use a bit of hot glue and some cable ties to put some strain relief on them. So let's have a look at how bright they are. It probably won't show up that well on the camera, but trust me, if you look into them, they are pretty blinding. They are 7 watts each. You've got 2 LEDs that face forward, and you've got a single LED that faces backwards, so when they're on the bar, people behind and in front can see you. And then, as we'll see here in a minute when I turn the lights off, you get a disc glow as well, so they're visible on the sides. So let's just have a look at what they look like. We'll turn them on. So this is looking side on, so this is what you would see if you're looking straight into the bar end. This is forward looking, which are the 2 LEDs. and then this is the rear single LED. Again, probably doesn't show up on camera that clearly, but they're pretty blinding. I'll turn the lights back on. I'll just turn that off for a minute. So if I mentioned before, when you put them in, which I might not do fully this time, you'll see that they're pretty much the same diameter as your grip, so they don't protrude, and then you can tighten them up. This one I'm yet to do, put a JST connection on and coil it up, but then it's pretty simple. And so I use a high-go connection which sits here across the bar end, comes off nice and tight, nice and waterproof, and then as you push this in, you'll get some more length to the cable there. So I'd recommend that you consider putting bar end indicators. There are cheaper ways to do this same concept. So the Motor Gadget ones are street legal, they're E-marked, they're good for motorbikes, and they'll certainly be good for scooters. But there are cheaper things you can buy on AliExpress or other motorcycle parts shops. The only thing is that the Motor Gadget relay, well, it is compatible with other LEDs, so I would recommend getting this. It's not that expensive, fits nicely in the bar end, makes the installation really clean. But if you get a more traditional, bulkier relay, you may have to put that into the deck and then run the switch cables all the way up. But there's just some tips for staying alive, staying visible, and safe riding.